Hello, welcome to my imperfect but still good enough TED Talk. 6 months ago, I invited myself to a conference, a big snazzy shindig that the British government were throwing to show how just on top of sexual abuse they were. And I sat there at the front and I watched people having conversations that were too muted, too soft. Everyone was avoiding the real conversation. And then Penny Mordaunt, Secretary of State for International Development, stepped on to give her big speech. And I just found myself too angry to sit in that audience and let that conversation not be had. So much to my surprise, I ended up standing up, walking to the side, and just thinking, I know I have to do something. I know I have to stop this from missing the opportunity to really nail what I want to talk about. Because if we don't nail those things, politicians don't address those things. And I thought, what could happen? You could go up and it could be dreadful. You could get halfway along the stage and the security team will just whisk you off and you'll never be seen again. Or you could just take a chance because, you know what, no one else is. And I could see the pain in women's eyes who had been trying to express what they knew was in the underbelly of this problem. And so I just made my mind up to go and be that person because no one else was doing it. And so as the stage bigger than this, and I got up and I made my way and I waited for someone to rugby tackle me, and no one did. And I had a piece of paper in my hand and I hid behind that piece of paper like a security blanket, which was a really good idea because everyone assumed I was about to brief the Secretary of State on some crisis that had just emerged, or that I was going to politely tell her maybe her time was up. And instead, I just free-flowed a 2-minute conversation with Penny Mordaunt in front of 500 people and the world's media and the CEOs of almost every major charity, and just decided to name the problems: racism, sexism, patriarchy, power abuse, colonialism. And the crowd gasped, and I thought, well, maybe I've got this wrong. But actually everyone leant in and listened, because we started to have a real conversation as two people. And to her credit, Penny Mordaunt stopped her speech and bowed her head and listened to me. And in that moment, I knew we'd taken some of that power back that day, away from the glossy, shiny politics that we all know and that are harming us every day because we're not part of them. So having made that decision that I was good enough, I've gone on to do more things. And being politically active for me means knowing every day when I look at myself in the mirror or in a selfie, I'm thinking, it's not that I can't be a politician, I am good enough to be a politician. The British political framework was modelled around a very particular person: an elite, white, cisgender, straight in public, privileged man, abled man, who doesn't face the same trajectory in life as many of us do. And too many of us are missing from the political scene. And we can see what happens today when we are not part of that. When women are 51% of the UK population, and we are missing in droves in the Houses of Parliament. 3,000 women are missing from councillor seats all across the UK because we don't feel like we're enough. We're taught that we are not enough. And yet we need a political revolution that's going to put all of us in the heart of those seats of power. I could break the TEDx rules and read out the names of all of the top people who govern the West Midlands, but I'm not going to do that. The West Midlands Combined Authority has 25 people who make decisions about all of our lives. They're the leaders of the councils, the leaders of local enterprise partnerships, and they have a say in what goes on every day for us. And they are 24 men, and there is one woman. And there are more Georges than there are Izzy, our one female representative. So I want to challenge all of us to see ourselves as politically brilliant people. We don't need to look like the model that was designed hundreds of years ago, because that model isn't good enough today. If we don't have representative democracy, I don't feel we have democracy. We have a lot of people whose vested interests are not in making our own lives better. They're there for other interests. And they may hide behind different rhetorics to explain why they get to be on TV all the time. But we know, in our hearts, there's another agenda going on. So my call to you is to start seeing yourself as a future politician. You have the right to analyse what's going on in your life. You have the right to notice, to observe. You have the right to question. If your superpower is connecting to other human beings, you don't need to be anything more than someone who can listen with curiosity, talk passionately, believe in people, and it will transform the politics that we are now living in, because if we don't do it, who else will? So I've decided to become the first purple-haired MP in the House of Commons, because I've decided that I'm good enough. And I step forward every day on a journey that I don't know where it's going to end, and I don't know how many roads I'm going to have to detour around, and I don't know how long it's going to take. But I'd like each of you to think, what could you be? Thank you very much.